Good morning, Calgary.
Good morning, Mark in Victoria. How are you in Victoria?
Warmer than you. We just finished talking.
Definitely.
I can talk weather all day. It's minus 30, which for our American friends is about minus 5,000. Actually, for Americans, what is it? Minus 30. It's
Oh,
zero is 30 degrees, so it's probably about
20
mm,
something?
yeah, it's probably about 0 Fahrenheit.
I think
Goes
it's a
to
little bit more than that. I think so far I think it's 17.
yeah, is it? It's cold.
It's
It's
cold.
cold as hell.
And
And
that's without factoring the wind chill. This is just purely temperature.
oh my God. Well, we can keep going on temperature all day long as far as I'm concerned, but we got a job to do here, man. This is serious. So the serious job we got to do here, I got to introduce you. We got to talk about what Bitwide is, and we got to give our brand DIY friends something to take away. So you and I met online,
Right?
and I was instantly interested in what you're up to at Bitwide. So describe to me what Bitwide actually is and does.
Sounds good. So Bitwise in general works with a lot of startups, small and medium-sized companies. A lot of them are tech-driven, but doesn't have to be, but majority of them are. What we focus on is the top half of the sales funnel. And the reason why we only focus on the top half of the sales funnel is because we work with a lot of amazing entrepreneurs and founders who their energy usually takes them to that stage of closing. Where we help them on is driving them to that stage of getting them into meetings. And that's really where our focus is on. It's about a lot of time taking the chore away from them. It's like we don't sometimes jokingly say that you can do the workout without the cardio. That's really what we sometimes jokingly refer to our services. That you get the service with you get the weight loss without the cardio.
Now, it to me, it's what you are as a door opener,
That's
and
correct.
as an entrepreneur who's wearing 50 hats, you're running the company, you're doing payroll, you're creating the product, you're emptying the garbage. To go out every day and open up a CRM and start looking, prospecting, I feel like sticking knitting needles in my eyes when I do that. It's awful. Now I'm lucky because I've been around long enough that that business sort of comes to me by word of mouth. But if you're starting out, it's torture. So just you're a door opener, and you help. So basically, get the right people going. Hey, I'm sniffing around. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're not. In my experience, most entrepreneurs are such great champions of their own product, and the company is still so small that it is the entrepreneur talking, that once the door is open, entrepreneurs have a pretty easy time because they're just so into it that the clients go, oh, I love you.
Exactly.
But getting the door open is a massive pain in the ass.
And it's not just getting the door open, it's not just doing the work. As both of us as entrepreneurs, it's the discipline, it's the regimen, it's the focus to do it. Because some days, some things just happen. Yesterday was a bad day for me. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, there was a lot of things happening, and as an entrepreneur, my whole entire sales outreach, my whole business development goes out the window that day. Uh, so I mean, as I just put it, if the toilet's plugged or whatever, you gotta call the plumbers, you gotta call. So things happen. So for a lot
Mhm.
of entrepreneurs, things just happen. So and for business development, for the outreach, it's just too easy, and it's too without much consequence. There's without short-term consequence of not skipping a day or skipping a week. People don't
Yeah.
feel too bad, but realistically, if you skip a week, you potentially lose that whole thing. So you're absolutely correct, and that's where we come in and making sure the ball doesn't get dropped, even on bad days, whether mentally or just business-wise or operational-wise, having a bad day, that job doesn't get dropped, and that's what we want, making sure that's what we provide to our clients is making sure what they can have the worst day in the world, but we just keep the machine going for them and having that process going regardless of what it's a process. Really, it's the process. We keep planting seed every day and hoping our clients will able to harvest in not too distant future.
Well, yeah, you know what? I think it's just good for your head too. If you're an entrepreneur, it does a lot of that. Like you just said, you have a lot of shitty days, but just the feeling of somebody coming in and going, "Hey, I heard about you." That's a really nice thing. That's a really nice bit of
Exactly.
validation if you're running your own business.
Definitely.
So
Yep.
now, how do you do it?
Well, we do it. A lot of our Trojan horse is done through LinkedIn, and the reason why we use LinkedIn as our first Trojan horse into thing because cold calling is expensive unless you're offshoring it, and email marketing we've been so conditioned to believe to have such high to be very conscious and be very suspicious of all email marketing, unsolicited email that either they are spam or they're phishing scandal,
Mhm.
phishing expedition. And also, LinkedIn also provide us is a nice organic conversation starter. It's basically starting a process of saying, hey, we both know this. Let's have a virtual coffee these days, as people like to see it. So it's a way to open. And also, what I find, at least for me, and I believe for a lot of people, even the most well crafted email, people have been so conditioned to say, I feel bad, it's poor etiquette for me to send one line. But if I were to send Mark and say, hey, this is what I do. Want to chat? Mark wouldn't feel bad to say, sure, it's my calendar. So
Mhm.
again, it's that organic chat, that very much that casual, that social aspect of social media that we're trying to harness for our clients. So really, that's where and then from there we can do other really interesting things with our client. But the first step for many of our clients is going out and reaching out through that LinkedIn process and getting the conversation started.
Now, I'm going to map this out for the brand DIYers. If you haven't been exposed to this, what it does essentially on LinkedIn, there's a tool called Sales Navigator, and you can find people in geographies who are doing the jobs who would make your ideal client, who are at the right companies, who are making the right amount of money, and the company's making the right amount of money. You can get pretty granular. And then you can figure out, okay, these 500 people are on my list. They would be good contacts. And then what you do, you create outreach through LinkedIn to reach out to a certain number of those people every single day. And then they come back and they tell you, screw you, or maybe, or hell yeah. And then you follow up. Now, I want to dig into something that's going to get a bit weird here because I was involved in a lead gen plan like this before, and I thought it was excellent. And I was working on it on behalf of my clients. So I would get their persona on LinkedIn, and it would be them that sent out all these emails. And what I discovered, there's two things. One, that LinkedIn monitors the number of invitations that you send out daily. And if there are a certain number of unanswered invitations, they assume that you're sending spam out there because everybody's just ignoring you. And if you send out enough spam, they shut you down. So that's the first thing I observed. The second thing I observed was that by sending this stuff out, we were attracting a lot of the wrong people. And the responses, I thought we were crafting good personalized responses to these people going, hey, I know you do this and I do this. And so let's make friends. But to a lot of people, it came off as really shitty. Now, this is the first thing when you and I met, I go, oh yeah, you're one of them spammers. So talk to me how you get around that so that your clients don't end up looking like spammers and getting a bad reputation.
For sure. I mean, as much as sales is a numbers game and it goes about that, but we believe that we're a big believer in quality over quantity. I mean, if you need to hit a goal of 500, getting connected to 500 people, the goal isn't to, if your acceptance rate is so low, isn't to increase the number of invitations. The question becomes, how do we refine the message so that you're actually speaking to the right people who are accepting it? So to your point, yes, you're absolutely correct. There's that element of it. And there's a lot of those out there. And that's something that we strive not to be.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you're correct too. LinkedIn has this fancy algorithm that we really have no clue that it's almost like the secret formula to KFC and Coke that
It
they use
changes
to
all
their
the
drink.
time, right?
It changes all the time. And as it should, as it adapts. So what we do is that we're making sure we know what that limit is and we don't want it. Some days we do push the envelope, but with our clients, we rarely ever push that envelope. Again, we want our clients to look like actual human behind building all those connections because generally speaking, and frankly, it's a great tool to build those connections. So what we really focus on is building meaningful messages. So yes, while that invitation does come in, yes, we do clean up, we do help our client clean up the invitation. So if you have too many unopened invitation, we help our client take care of that. So it's that whole formula that we constantly balance. But ultimately, what we do is that we work with our clients to do that. And actually, we've been very lucky in the sense that a good friend of ours is also a clinical psychologist that helps us say, you know what, these messages are what sounds more like human. And I think for whatever reason, when we write messages or when salespeople start to write messages, um, we stop sounding like human and we start sounding like robot. And that's one thing that we constantly evaluate. And it's funny, I'm not sure if you ever watched James Veach on YouTube. He's a guy that does a lot of. He's a guy who's both famous.
When he gets in
Messages.
in the spam back and forth with the Nigerian guy.
Exactly. So a lot of times, myself and my business partner, when we get spam message, we would actually analyze spam message, say, "Hey, that's a good spam message." We wouldn't click on the link, but we say we'll take these elements, and we also follow a few thought leaders and say, and we analyze their messages a lot too, saying how did they craft it.
Yeah.
And really, we craft messages very much the same way. I was talking to one of our salesperson recently, and again, not to sound like a robot, not to spend very bot-like and stuff like this, is she was asked a question and she responded very, very spammy-like. I say, it's like, Mark, do you like Apple? Your answer is going to be, I like Apple, or I don't like Apple. You mean? But the way she responded was, I like fruits, such as apple. I think, come on. People don't respond like that. So again, it's crafting messages, crafting follow-ups, and crafting response where it sounds like human. And that's what we also do, is that we have a virtual sales assistant behind the scenes helping our entrepreneurs. And these are communicators, not salespeople behind the scenes. Because again, we want the conversation to keep going, because ultimately we want to get them to a stage where we are building rapport, building trust, building relationship. Again, that's really what we're striving for, is building those relationships. And I think we are, in many ways, living up to the spirit of what LinkedIn is trying to do. And also, what you also see is a lot of other companies out there. They are merciless. I mean, if you accept the invite, they send you a 100-word essay, which no one reads, and you're like, I don't care. 2 days later, on the dot, they send you another message, and then if you ignore them, another 2 days later, they send you on the dot, and that's something we don't do.
But if you think about it, like I've been working in marketing and branding all my life, and I think for brand DIYers, folks listen really hard to this, because probably the first bit of advice from you, Norman, and you didn't say it in as many words, but go out there and study the invitations you get that you accept and the ones where you go, screw you, because they are different. And when somebody comes up and goes, hi, I want to be your friend and sell you a website, and you go, screw you, and they come back 2 days later and go, hey, I want to, you're going, I hate you. I hate you even more now. Before I didn't care, but now I'm actually going to go out and I'm going to make fun of you online because you're such an asshole. But people don't study that enough. You talked about your salesperson. If you study the stuff you hate, you start to take notes and go, I better not be like that. And I don't think there's a formula, short introduction, long introduction, but I think you have to go, if I was a human getting this, what would really piss me off?
We work off, I don't want to say a formula. I think we work off a philosophy. Maybe it is a formula. So what we do is I always joke. Sometimes LinkedIn, I'm not advocating we should use LinkedIn as Tinder. That's not what I'm advocating. But sometimes you guys think about as LinkedIn is the same process how someone might navigate Tinder. Your first step is getting people to swipe right. In LinkedIn world, you're getting people to accept your LinkedIn, regardless. I mean, just because I think I'm the most handsome person, most charismatic person in the world, not everyone's going to accept straight right on me on Tinder. Just like no matter how perfect of a message I craft on LinkedIn, people's going to accept it. But once you get that, your next goal for far too many salespeople, and I also teach job search skills on how to network on LinkedIn. Same idea, really. Networking for jobs and networking for sales. It's really the same idea. Too often people go on Tinder, no one goes from swiping right to, hey, Mark, let's get married. No one
Yeah.
does that. It doesn't work.
No, it's gross. It's really,
Gross,
it's freaky.
freaky. But yet, for people who are job searching or people who are selling, they go from thank you for accepting to buy my product. Doesn't work. You don't even know what the problem is. So again, that's what we work with our clients to build messaging and how we built it. And I'm more than happy to share because it's no rocket science. We have a very short salutation. We have a very short message of commonality, and we have one ask. We only, if within that message, there's only one ask. Because if there's too many asks, the message becomes convoluted. We become, the brain works too hard to digest. If you can't, if I, as a reader, if I can't understand your ask by glancing over it, the message is too complex. So our rule, if you can't comprehend that message in 6 seconds or less, the message is too complex. And that ask can be very simple. You can be asking a question. This is what I see. Do you see the same issue? Or, hey, I'm awesome. Let's have a chat. One ask. There's nothing more than one ask on that thing. And that's where you, and I think a lot of times people get too desperate or too jumpy, that get too impatient where they jump to too many asks. If I don't get this, how about this? How about this? You don't like apple? Great, I can do bananas. Great. How about pears? Whereas it's really focus on what fruit do you like? Oh, you like apples. Great. Then you know what the path is going forward already. Or they say bananas. Okay, I know what the path going forward is. Someone likes a banana. So really, it's about understanding your client's needs. It's about understanding things. It's really sales 101 about understanding your client. Except for whatever reason, we feel the need to be impatient and jumping to that hole ending very soon. And that's what, again, what we teach our clients and what we coach our client and how we build our messages for our client is having that one need where you open up that conversation. Because ultimately, I don't know about you, but I've never sold a single thing because of my fantastic LinkedIn message. It
No,
starts with
no.
gets the
Now you hit
conversation.
on something that I want to highlight again. So the first thing is watch the stuff that's coming into your inbox, the stuff you hate, the stuff you love. Try to think that way. You know, like what am I sending out? Just do a little self-analysis because, like you said, we drop the human hat and put on the sales hat as soon as it's our own baby. Second thing, you hit on something I think really important for brand DIYers is before I start selling you my website, I'd like to know what you think a problem is because I've observed a problem with other companies like yourself. Are you finding the same thing? You know, like if somebody goes, oh, they've gone to the trouble to actually dig into our category and understand that, you know, COVID has killed all our clients. Is that a problem for you? I'm not selling anything, but what I'm doing, I'm selling the idea that I care, that there's a genuine link there. And I think too many people just go, so we got vaccines. Do you want some?
Exactly.
So
Oh, hey, I could do everything. Let's talk. I was like, well, you don't
yeah,
even know what you did.
I have a big question.
Sure.
You know, the old Russell Brunson ClickFunnels thing and the old school of sending out, you know, sort of direct messaging is what the opposite of what you just talked about. They said, you know, craft big, long letters to people and, hey, you should probably try this. And if you click on here, and then why not this? And I remember learning this and I'm going, I would never write anything like that to anybody ever. And yet they're telling me that that's the way that's what converts. Thoughts on that?
You know, it's interesting. I don't think that works on LinkedIn. I mean, I've heard that theory and I've seen that theory before. One theory that seems to work is you overwhelm them with content. You see that politician and political parties love that. And I think that's a way. I think when you have when the medium's on paper or when people you capture their attention span, that's easier. But I think on social media that isn't necessarily as working as well. Email, I think you're kind of looking with somewhere in the middle. You don't want to be too short, but at the same time, though, you don't want to overwhelm them, especially on an introductory email. I mean, email, you're probably okay in terms of content-driven email where you have already established that relationship. You have already established that idea that you are delivering valuable content that people want to invest their time in.
Mm-hmm.
But here is the introductory. You haven't really built up the value proposition for why someone should invest more than really for in our world, and even in the recruitment world, I used to be a recruiter. Their magic number is 6 seconds because that's that's the amount of time recruiters spend on a resume the first time around.
Yeah.
So if they don't, if so, the question becomes is why would I even want to spend 6 seconds or less on your thing? And I think you need to create that create that business case where I say, hey, let's chat some more. Let's invest 15 minutes. Let's okay, you got me here. Let's invest half an hour onto a video call, whatever. So it's about taking that one step at a time. Again, going back to Tinder, your first step is getting them to talk back to you because
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really matter. You can craft you can be the most interesting person in the world. If no one's talking back to you, who cares?
Yeah.
Then you go from then the next step would be, hey, great, now you have this conversation. Let's go for coffee. Let's go for dinner, and then so on and so forth. You start building up your case. You put building that value until you get a stage of, great, I trust you. I think you can do a good job. Let's close the deal, or
Yeah.
let's give you a try. So we built those stuff where everything. And then, or you might need a free trial, or you might need a opt up here, say continue to build that trust, where you deepen that relationship. I used to work for banks. The magic number for banks that they want is 3 products. If you're willing to commit to 3 products with the bank, they know that they're not going anywhere anytime soon. So whether that's a savings account, a credit card, and a line of credit, once you have once you have 3 products with them, you're not going anytime soon. Or I'd like to quote a different one. What's his name? He wrote the book Never Eat Alone. And then his theory, again, similar to a bank, is you need to touch a person 3 times. You have to have a talk to them 3 times before you start building that relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really what we really try and say is that let's talk to them, let's touch them out on LinkedIn. Let's have a conversation on LinkedIn. Let's have a conversation with them on video. Then you start building that relationship where you now have trust, you now have rapport. I'm not here to scam you. I seem like I know what I'm talking about. And then we built from there.
Yeah. It's funny. Before I get into this, I have one question, which is, do entrepreneurs put enough time into thinking through swipe first, similar interests, 2, coffee, 3, dinner, 4. In your experience, do entrepreneurs think that through? And second, uh, the whole idea of free value. That's one thing that I'm a huge believer in. People reach out to me all the time on LinkedIn. I go, hey, you know what? If you reached out because you think I'm a marketing cool guy or whatever, you should join my tribe at BrandDIY Group. And they all do. And you did.
I did,
And
yes.
and then what they discover there is a whole world of free value, because I can segment my clients pretty easily on LinkedIn going, oh, you got a lot of money. You're a startup entrepreneur. You're a student, startup, come onto my tribe. And they do, and they get all the free value in the world, and they're going, yay. And then later on, maybe a year, maybe 2 years later, they come up and go, you're a good guy. So 2 questions. One, do entrepreneurs think through the hello, shared values, coffee, dinner, get married? Do they think that through? And 2, are there enough people thinking through give somebody free value to make them go, hey, this is a good dude? Do they think that through?
I think it really to answer your first question, I think it depends on the type of entrepreneurs we deal with personally. I think people who are like yourself, who are a little bit more that who has done the business development, who kind of see things a little bit more broader, I think they get it. They get the whole process. It's not a relationship. I think for people who are more from the technical background, what more do I need to get? I built the most amazing product. How come you're not jumping onto my most amazing product right now? And it's the whole build it and they will come philosophy. And unfortunately, I see way too many amazingly cool products that never have liftoff because the founder, their CEO simply believe that, I have such a great product that people should be joining my cult right off the bat. Why wouldn't they? Well, because people don't get it. And frankly, sometimes I even see very mediocre product hitting that big roof because they're just out there pounding and pounding and pounding away on stuff where, you know what? Everyone knows them. Very mediocre product, but everyone knows them. They have a compelling message. Uh, they drive the traffic, and they get there. So I think sometimes a lot of entrepreneurs don't go through the whole process.
I
And a
think
lot of it is,
that's a third bit of advice right there. If
yeah,
you're an entrepreneur, one, watch messages coming in. Do they suck? Two, think through. Well, I don't know what the second one was that we were talking about. The third one, I forgot. The third one is think through what are the steps. You know, one, hi. Two, shared values. Three, coffee. Four, dinner. Five, maybe get married. But to the second, okay, so that's really important for entrepreneurs because nobody's going to bite your product just because it's the best thing ever made. Nobody gives.
exactly.
So for the other one is the giving away free stuff to show that I'm a good person and build a bit of reciprocity. Do you advise on that, or do you talk about that?
I think that's a very interesting question, and I think we batted back and forth on this one. So I mean, we have considered it, and we do offer it um, whenever needed. I think a lot of our time, I think right off the bat, I think most people don't ask for it because they're like, you know what? We don't lock them into a really long contract. So I think
Mm-hmm.
we balance that, but sometimes there is that need, and I think it balance up. I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, they need to balance out what's their upside and downside. I mean, if your margin is super, super thin, then that becomes a lot tougher of an argument to give the free stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because if your margin is thin, you need to what you don't want to lose. If losing one, you have to have a high conversion rate for you to risk that one. For entrepreneurs who are working with higher margin products or people who are doing licenses and who need to trust build that thing, then yeah, for sure. And that's really where that balance becomes is you need to understand your own margins and your own product and what it takes to build and the cost. I mean, as I said, if I sell you a $5 widget and you're like, you know what, if it doesn't work, so be it. It's only $5. If I'm not
Mm-hmm.
selling you a $5,000 widget, then you're like, no, I want a little bit more trust before I'm willing to pay. So there's a lot of things to go on. So yes, does it work? Does it work? Yes. Does it make sense? That's a different story. And I think that's the balance that an entrepreneur needs to ask themselves is, does this make sense? And what is my need for conversion to get it? Is it, do I need to convert 90%? Because if I lose one, I'm toast. Or that's okay. As long as I convert 1 out of 4, I can give, as long as I maintain that 1 out of 4 margin, that's
Mm-hmm.
okay if the other 3 out of 4 don't sign on because I'm coming ahead already. So it's that balance that we, every entrepreneur needs to kind of ask themselves in what's my risk tolerance and what am I willing to, what's that,
Yeah.
what's the business case?
Yeah. Now there's different forms of that too. One of my favorites, Blair Enns, who's the Win Without Pitching guy. He's coming on the show next week or something. But what they do, I always study the emails that I get that I keep opening, and you go, what is it that they do? And Win Without Pitching, I just got one this morning that said, companies like yours are charging more. And you're like, oh, wait a minute. And I read, and it's an essay, and Blair does a great job at giving me free value. He goes, you should think about this. You should think about this. You should think about this. By the way, we have a boot camp. By the way, here is how to price creativity, $800-900 book. So they have things to sell, but if I don't buy any of them, I'm still walking away going, thanks, Blair. And I recommend Blair all the time to people. And because you go, he's a good guy. So even added value doesn't necessarily have to be, I'm going to give you a key ring or a coffee cup or the starter version of my program. You can just go, here's some stuff to think about. But listen, I got to bring this home. Now, I would highly recommend that people investigate you because I really like your ethics on making outreach human. And I know that LinkedIn is this huge pool, this huge lake full of fish, but so many people do a shitty job trying to fish in there. And if you have good ethics and good values and good psychology and reaching out, I know the system's going to work. So I'm going to link you in the show notes to this. So if you're watching, watch for Norman's name, click on his name. and check out Bitwide. If you are bummed out by the constant process of trying to find more stuff to fill the top of the funnel, you've got a great product.
Thank you,
So
Mark.
any final thoughts?
Ultimately, as I said, ultimately the focus is, I mean, with all entrepreneurs, the sales process is about focus and disciplined approach. And it's about driving that whole and about staying human. That's always been my model: is stay human, be human,
Mhm.
um, be conversational, and it's a two-way street. When you're if that person's wrong, it's a two-way street. You don't know where that relationship might lead going forward.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Stay
Mark.
warm. I'll talk to you soon.
For sure. Talk to you later.
Take care.
Bye bye.